Hi everybody. So in this session, I'm going to start identity awareness. So identity awareness, especially for checkpoint firewall. So in checkpoint, it is called identity awareness, and same thing in Palo Alto called user ID. And it is very demanded features in checkpoint, and maximum organization using identity awareness to get to get the granular control of the on the users. So everyone can spook the IP, but not the users. It is very difficult to spook the user. Means do something wrong with user. It is very difficult. But doing something wrong or spoofing related things with IP is very easy. Okay. So not to avoid such types of problem in the production in the company, Checkpoint developed identity awareness and Palo Alto developed user ID. Okay. So both concept is same. The way of handling, the way of configuration is little bit different in both the firewall. Okay. So with the help of identity awareness, we can keep control on the users. Okay. So first, let's try to understand the theory. So this session is just for the introduction of identity awareness in Checkpoint. In next session, I'm going to explain and show the lab also, and we'll see the live example. So let me take my pen and then, for example, we'll go through like how identity awareness is, helpful in the production in the company to get, to get the control on the user. So, for example, there are, for example, there are, one, two, and three. For example, there are three users in HR department. Just consider. And we have our firewall here, and we have added a rule for this user on the basis of IP, and for this user also, for this user also. We can consider we have added rule on the basis of IP for all the three users to our destinations, and it's getting allow and user is able to access the resources whatever we have allowed on the firewall. Okay. For example, this user IP got changed. Okay. Maybe this user machine getting IP with the help of DHCP. So generally DHCP IP get changed as per the time set. So for example, this user IP got changed. Okay. So whatever rule we have added on the firewall, this user will not able to access, because IP got changed for that user, right? So this user will again report to our team like we are not able to access the destination which is added on the firewall. So with the help of identity awareness, we can avoid these things. So instead of IP as a source, we can use user as a source and towards destination to access the resources whatever they requested on the firewall. So whenever user, for example, this PC IP got changed, it will get update from the Active Directory like user IP has been changed, but we have added the rule on the basis of user ID, so there will no any impact. This user will be access the destination whatever added on the firewall. So this is the beauty of identity awareness. Okay, so let me just go a little bit more theory. So identity awareness allow you to easily add user group, and machine identity intelligence to your security defense. Traditionally, firewalls use IP address to monitor traffic, which I explained in the beginning, and are unaware of the user and computer identity behind those IP address. Okay. So identity awareness maps user and computer identity to IP address, allowing you to enforce access and audit data based on identity. I identity awareness is an easy to deploy and scalable solution. It is applicable for both Active Directory and non-Active Directory based network, as well as for employee and guest users. Okay. Identity awareness map user and computer identity to IP address, allowing you to enforce access and audit data based on identity. Okay. And identity awareness is an easy to deploy and scalable solution. Okay. You can create policy rules for any user on defined, specified computer. Checkpoint support both local and external users. So local users are defined on security management server. External users are those who records are managed on Active Directory, Radius, or LDAP server. So basically, in short, I can tell like for achieving this goal, we generally integrate the AD, Active Directory, we can say LDAP server with our firewall. So whenever user do any activity, that AD is going to update to our security gateway, and security gateway is taking action accordingly. Okay. For example, user IP got changed. So AD is going to update to our gateway, and gateway will keep the record of the IP. Okay. For example, HR1 is the user. And at the moment, for example, just take example like HR1 is the user, and its IP is 10.10.10.10. Okay. And for example, next date's IP change like 20.10.10.10. So AD is going to tell to our firewall, HR1 user IP got changed from 10.10.10 to 20.10.10.10. So firewall is going to keep the record, and accordingly it will show in the logs. Okay. Because we have added a rule on the identity awareness base. Okay, user base. So it will not affect that user. User will be able to access the destination whatever we have added on the firewall. But firewall will keep the record of the IP from 10.10.10 to 20.10.10.10, and it will show accordingly in the logs. Okay. So this is the concept we need to understand. Okay. So this is very, very important. So when we do, when we generally do the initial setup of the Active Directory with our firewall, so security management server is going to communicate initially setup. So when we are doing initial setup, at that times only security management server is going to communicate with our Active Directory server. And when we are creating any new role, access role, with the help of a smart console, at that time a smart console is also going to communicate with AD to face some details related to like users, group, computer groups from the Active Directory. Okay, so these are the one-time features. Like security management server and a smart console is not going to communicate every time with Active Directory. Okay, just make it note. So they are going to communicate only for initial setup, and a smart console is going to communicate to fetch some detail when we are adding access role on the with the help of a smart console. And apart from that, every time security gateway is going to communicate with Active Directory to fetch all the details related to logs, like whatever user login, log out, whatever user accessing, everything going to fetch. Our firewall is going to fetch with the with Active Directory. So this is the beauty of identity awareness, and it is very, very demanded in the market at the moment. Every company using identity awareness features. Okay. I hope you guys understand the concept. So this is the theory session. Okay. Next session we'll do lab also. So this concept is very, very important to understand. So while configuring identity awareness, I will see all the things. Okay. And whatever I have said earlier, it is mentioned here. So let's go through one by one. So the management server connect to the Active Directory domain control at initial setup. Okay. To discover the list of domain controller, it also makes that connection if you fetch the LDAP SSL fingerprint. So it is going to be communicate with Active Directory when you are doing the initial setup, not every time. Okay. And the client PC running a smart dashboard, that is a smart console, makes an LDAP connection to DC, means domain controller, when you add a new access role on the firewall. It needs to do this to get current list of AD users, group, etc. Okay, these connections are only made when you change access role. This is not an ongoing. So whenever you are doing changes in access role, only a smart console is going to communicate with our AD Active Directory to face the list like AD users, groups, etc. So we should take care. We should we should aware like these are the initial setup. They are they are not going to communicate every time. And the firewall use WAMI to connect to the domain controller, read the security events log. Okay, they do this to build up a list of user to IP mapping. These connections are permanent. By default, all firewall will connect to all defined domain controller. So firewall is going to communicate every time to fetch all the details related to users. But a smart console and security management server is going to communicate like security management is going to communicate when you are doing initial setup to fetch the AD details to identify the Active Directory server, and a smart console is going to communicate with the Active Directory when you are adding access role objects on the firewall, so that it is going to fetch the details related to like users, group, etc. Okay. Okay, so we can achieve this identity awareness via two way, like first via AD query and second via browser-based authentication. So we'll see one by one. So AD query is an easy to deploy clientless identity acquisition tool. It is based on Active Directory integration and it is completely transparent to the user. AD query works when an identified user or computer try to access a resource that creates an authentication request. Okay, for example, when a user log in, unlock a screen, share a network drive, read emails through Exchange, or use an intranet portal, the technology is based on queuing the Active Directory security events, logs, and extracting the user and computer mapping to the network address from them. So whenever user doing these things, okay, like unlock a screen, shares network drive, reads emails through Exchange, okay, it is based on window management instrumentation, a standard Microsoft protocol. So it is generally anyone can ask question like which protocol work behind that, like we can say like firewall communicating with AD, AD. So which protocol basically works? So it is called like Windows management instrumentation, and it is a standard Microsoft protocol. The Identity Awareness Gateway communicates directly with Active Directory domain controller and does not require a separate server. Okay, no installation is necessary on the clients or on the Active Directory server. AD query extract user and computer identity information from the Active Directory security events log. The system generates a security event log entry when user or computer accesses a network resource. So whenever user do any activity, it is going to generate the events log, and that is going to fetch from AD to the firewall. So accordingly, firewall maintain the entry and take the action accordingly. Okay, so this is the beauty of identity awareness. Okay, and we'll see in the lab also, so you guys can understand much better. Okay, so this is just a theory session. So I explain like actual meaning. What is the actual meaning of identity awareness in the production in the company? And this diagram indicate that. Let me explain. See, the security gateway is configured to receive security events log from the Active Directory domain controller. So, security gateway, basically we can say firewall, is configured to receive security events log from Active Directory domain controllers. User logs into a computer with Active Directory credential. The Active Directory domain controller send the security event log to the security gateway. Okay, so whenever user logs, it is going to send the events log to security gateway. The security gateway get the user and IP information. For example, hr1@test.local, this is the user, computer name, and source IP address. Okay, so whenever user is trying to log in and do some activity, log is generated, event log generated, and that is going to fetch with our security gateway. And security gateway, get the information like user and its IP informations. Okay, the user open a connection to the internet, then user is going to access the connection to the internet, and the security gateway confirm that user identification and lets him access the internet based on the policy. So accordingly, firewall is going to allow, okay, that user role is already on our firewall, so get let's them go on the internet. For example, this is our firewall. And for example, this is our AD server, we can say Active Directory, and where we have a one user created HR1 as per this, we can understand. So when user try to log in, for example, HPC. So and once he log in, try to access internet. So that logs going to be generated, event log generated, and it is going to fetch to the security gateway. And we have already added rule on the security gateway for as a source HR1 user and destination, for example, internet 8.8.8. Okay, so firewall pays the details from AD about user HR1, and we have already added the rule on the basis of user ID, like in source HR1 is allowed to communicate with our Google DNS. So firewall is going to allow that communications. Okay. For example, at the moment, HR1 PC IP is 10.10.10.10, 10.10.10.10. So it will show in logs, it will show 10.10.10 IP, and source user is going to show HR1. When HR1 IP got changed from 10.10.10.10 to 20.20.20.20, so it is going to in log, instead of 10.10 it will show 20.20.20, and user will be the same like HR1. Okay, so this is how security get a fake detail from AD. Okay, so this is the beauty of identity awareness, we can say. Okay, for example, we have on our firewall, let's understand some other example. For example, for HR1 we have allowed only this as a destination, but next time he is trying to access something else, for example, facebook.com, facebook.com, it is going to drop it because on the rule we did not allow Facebook. So this is how we can keep granular control on the user with the help of identity awareness. I hope you guys understand this concept. Okay, let's move on. Yeah. So other first one is we can achieve through AD query, like through with the help of Active Directory, and mostly company use AD query only. Okay, AD query method to fetch the detail from the Active Directory, and it is agentless, so there is no need to install agent on the anywhere. So it is very quick and easy to set up. Second one, we can achieve identity awareness related things. We can say like user granular control on the user with the browser-based authentication. So let me explain about browser-based authentication. See, so browser-based authentication we use mostly for guest users. For example, so in your company there are 5-10 guest users. Um, you know, uh, they came for some purpose, and we want like if they access anything, so now with help of our company network, so their logs should be so in our firewall. And like as per the rule and policy of the company, we can't allow that user to directly access anything with help of our company internet. Okay, so, for that types of requirement, we can achieve through browser-based authentication. So basically, it is for guest users. For that, we need to, configure rule related to that users. And when the guest user is trying to access something on the internet on our company network, um, they will prompt for the username and password, and whatever username password we have created on the firewall, they need to put, and then they can access the internet. So this is how browser-based authentication work, and it is mostly for the guest users. Okay, so browser-based authentication, guest identity and authenticate user with one of these acquisition method. Like in Palo Alto, it is called captive portal, and transparent Kerberos authentication. Captive portal is a simple method that authenticate users with a web interface. Okay, when user try to access a protected web resource, they enter authentication information in a form that shows in their web browser. So when they will enter the username password, then they can access the internet or anything. This scenario can be used if you want to present the user with a web from login page. A captive portal can also be used for guest, what I said in earlier, who need limited access to the internet. Captive portal is a web form which is used to authenticate the newly connected device. once the users get authenticated by captive portal, web form can access the internet. When one of the, when one of these timers expire, the user needs to re-authenticate to captive portal, while captive portal is most commonly used in a layer 3 routed based environment. Okay. See, so it will look like that, look like this. So let me just erase it. Yeah. So when we configure browser based authentication, so when user is trying to access anything on the internet, so they will prompt for the username password. When they will enter the username password, then they will able to access the internet. And whatever we have created username password, they need to put, and then they will access the resources. So this is we can say like browser based authentications, and these are the feature of identity awareness. So browser based we use very less. As per my experience, I never use browser based, but we should aware it's mostly used for the guest users. So the company where we can say like huge, we can say like a security rule, huge security related policies there. And if any guest user come to the office and we want to give access to that user, so for that we can use browser based authentications. So only things we have allowed they can access. Apart from that, they will not allow anything. And and they will authenticate. Okay, so whatever username password we have created, they need to put, and then they can access. Otherwise, they will not access anything on the company. Okay. And this is the access role. So I have mentioned earlier. So when we create access role, it is very, very important. So a smart console is going to communicate with the AD, Active Directory, to fetch the details like user or groups, computer and computer groups. So when while adding security policy on the firewall, first we need to create access role. So once we have done integrated of the AD, that is like Active Directory server, then we need to create access role object, and in access role object we can like face like for example whatever users we created, group we have created on the Active Directory, it will show here. Okay, so whatever access role we created, we can call that in our security policy, like like for example or destination source or destination, while adding the role on the firewall. So it is very, very important to create access role object first, and then call that access role object in the source or destination as per the requirement. Okay. So with the help of access role object, we can get the details, uh, like whatever user we have created on the Active Directory, it will show here. For example, sales user. And so, when we type here like sale, and this is already created on the Active Directory, so it will show here. And we have created the like access role object for the sales user. And then now, if you want to add any rule on the firewall related to sales user, you can in source, you can use whatever name you have created. For example, sale dash group. So in source, we can use sale dash group, and whatever user inside that group, they will access the destination whatever we have added on the firewall. Okay. So in short, मैं आपको अगर बता दूं, let me just erase it. इसको यहाँ समझते हैं. Okay, so once we have done the AD integrations, then we need to create new access role. For example, we have created HR group access role object, and users we are adding HR. So this is created on the Active Directory. Okay, this is not on the firewall. It is fetching from the Active Directory. Okay, and now we have created access role object. So now when we will add the security policy, in source we can use HR group, and whatever people inside the HR group, it is going to access the destination whatever we have allowed in this security policy. For example, in this is any. So whatever people in this group, they are going to access the destinations, whatever allowed. So in this case, it is any. They are going to access anything on the port, whatever port, whatever services we allow. So in this case, any. So what are the people in this group? They are going to access anything on any port. Okay. So this is the meaning of access role object. So first we need to create access role object. Inside access role object, we need to call that user or groups, and then call that user and group in the security policy, maybe in source, maybe in destination, as per the requirement. Okay. So this is the theory of identity awareness in checkpoint. In next session, I'm going to explain with the help of lab, and it is very easy and it is very quick to set up. It is very quick to set up on the checkpoint firewall. So I hope you guys understand the theory of identity awareness in checkpoint. If you like this session, please share, subscribe, and like as much as possible. Thank you very much.